We're so happy to have you. This is our welcome table where we greet our guests for our Maple Syrup Festival. We have several activities on site, so my job is to really give everyone direction of where they're going and what we have going on. For those who aren't familiar, Fenner is a local nonprofit that operates on the nature preschool and property, and we make sure that we're connecting nature to our community through stewardship and education. So right here, this is my favorite thing. So this is actually from a beaver that found a tree and started doing some work to make itself a dam. Over here, we have a little critter pelt. My first guess was this is a fox, but I was incorrect. This is actually a bobcat or a lynx. We've got a moose antler. And then we have 2 pine cones here, which I think is a really fun size comparison. This is a Coulter pine. It's one of the largest pine cones, and it's actually found in California, not here in Michigan. But right here, you can see a pine cone we pulled from the Fenner property that shows you the size comparison of the 2. And then over here, we have a turtle. He's not inside of there, though. No turtle, just a shell. And then some of our maple syrup products, which we are selling today. Large variety, but this is maple syrup, and this is some lovely maple syrup root beer. Absolutely have to check out in the Maple Grove itself. We are teaching you how to make maple syrup, which I think is such a cool process, and I'm sure someone else will take you to actually see what that process looks like. But for me, that's you can't miss. It's a wonderful education opportunity to learn about how maple syrup is made. But the other fun thing is we actually have some Guinness World Record pancake flippers here. So for $10, you can get all you can eat pancakes and see some really cool flipping over in the tent.
Welcome to the Maple Syrup Festival. My name is Tina. I'm the Marketing and Membership Manager here at Fenner. We're going to walk into the Susan and Jack Davis Nature Pavilion, so let's go inside and see what we have going on. So now we're inside the Davis Nature Pavilion. We have our local vendors. We have maple cotton candy that we've made out of maple sugar. You can watch them make it and actually purchase some to support Fenner. We have maple root beer and maple cream. And actually, Ezra over here, one of our naturalists, is going to talk a little bit about what he's doing here today and how he's making the maple cream.
Hi, I'm Ezra. I'm one of the naturalists here, and I'm running our maple cream demonstration today. We're going over how we take maple syrup like this, like you'd get out of any tree, and turn that into our maple cream here, which is a very different texture, more of a spreadable, sort of delightful butter you could put on a lot of substances. So really, we're gonna be heating this puppy up to about 230 degrees. As soon as that hits that temperature, drop it right in the ice bath, drop it down to 70 degrees. And this is where the fun part comes in. If we're making a large batch, we'd use this machine over here to stir it for about an hour or 2. We're making pretty small batches here at Fenner. So instead, I'm gonna be here stirring with our stirring machine right here, and I'll be out here for another hour or 2 giving this a good stir. Eventually it'll crystallize up and the whole substance will change from the liquidy maple syrup you're familiar with into that spreadable maple cream instead. There's a lot of different ways you can crystallize maple syrup into maple candy, maple butter, even like maple taffy, hard candies. It's crazy with the amount of temperature changes and stirring changes, the things you can do. So I'm running through that here today. We're gonna get started over here. Hi guys, welcome to Maple Syrup Festival. Oh, there, see that's the energy that I needed.
I'm Olivia Lindberg. I took all of these photos here. They were all taken in Michigan. A lot of them here at Fenner too, so that's exciting. A lot of nature centers and then a lot of our parks and trails. And it actually started because I forage for mushrooms, and I used to take a lot of pictures of everything I'd find so I could go ID them later. And then eventually I was like, well, I think I just like taking the pictures. So I think it just got more serious over time, and then eventually I was like, I think I just want to be out here all the time taking pictures. So I upgraded my camera, and I made it a whole thing. A lot of them are from the river trail too, so that's very close. If you're ever in the Scott Woods area, a lot of them are from there. This owl is just from the river trail. So is this one up here. These are from the river trail. So a lot nearby, if not exactly from Fenner. It's right next to home, it's local, it's community, it's a space for animals and people to interact in a beautiful way. I live a minute from here. It's my community, it's my people, I think. That's why it's so beautiful.
So now we're heading to the Flapjacks for Fenner tent. This is our Flapjacks fundraiser where all the funds go back into supporting Fenner and supporting our mission of connecting people to nature through conservation, education, and stewardship. So we have some pretty cool Flapjacks flippers. So you can see them later. They're going to flip the pancakes straight onto people's plates, and it's so fun seeing how they try to catch them. And we've got, sausage, orange juice, but what's really nice is that it's all you can eat pancakes for just one purchase. We also have pure maple syrup samples, so while you're eating that, you can try some maple syrup as well as the difference between artificial and natural maple syrup. So we have that going on there, and it's super exciting.
My name is Melanie. I've been with Chris Cakes. This is my 5th year. This is actually my son, Ryan, who is doing the flipping today. I tend to take a little bit to warm up. He can get on there and he can just do it. He's great at long distance. He can go under his leg, he can go behind his back.
How do you train for something like that?
Actually, what we do is we'll put an X on the floor or take like a hot pad, and you flip it and you try to land it on like the X to get it so you get warmed up. And there's actually quite a technique to it. You have to remember to flip with your wrist and not use your whole arm. And you want to make sure that you're spinning it in the air and not line driving them with it. So we tell them it's not a brick, it's a pancake. And I'm definitely not going to hurt you with it. We have a great time here. Everyone is very friendly. They're always willing to help. And it's just an all-around fun time. Who else gets to throw hot food at people, right?
What I love about Fenner is we do try to bring the community together, and Madhouse Tea was kind enough to come out and support us here today. So we're going to have them explain what they've got on their menu and what people are warming themselves up with today.
We are a specialty mobile tea trailer. We do hot, cold, ice. We do frappe style. We do lattes as well. And all of our blends are specialty made blends. And we've been in business 2 years now, and we have a fall-winter menu. We have a spring and summer menu. We do festivals. We do things like the Nature Center. We do private events, but we are all tea. We're all tea.
I love that you're out here today, like warming people up, because this is like the perfect weather to actually like get cozy with all those teas.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much, Kyra. At the Maple Grove now, and I love the Maple Grove because it's firstly so beautiful today. We have a lot of sugaring demos going on. We can learn how sap is boiled and turned into maple syrup. We have syrup samples from different trees, so how that tastes. And then we also have so many hands-on activities here today. And keep in mind, this is all free. We like to keep the educational activities free for everybody to enjoy. It doesn't matter how old you are, because even the young kids can try lifting the yoke lift over their shoulders and seeing how sap was transported back in the day. So we can see that there's like a tree ID where people can identify trees and if it's good for tapping Native American sugaring log. We have the homesteader kettle. There's just so many things. So let's go in there and see what else there is.
So this is a hand drill that people used to use to tap trees in order to get syrup. Nowadays, we use power tools, much easier, but you would put this up against the tree, hold it against your body, and twist the handle so that way it would drill into the tree. You go about 1 to 2 inches deep, and then you'll remove it, and then you'll use this spile. You hammer in on this side, so that way it goes in like this, and then hammer it in until it fully covers the hole, and then sap will start pouring out of the tree. For MSU, for our syrup, we use tubing, and so for that you just use gravity. It just pulls it down. It's the same thing with the spile of it, just redirects it, and then you hang it up on a bucket, so that way it'll collect the sap. You put a cover on it to make sure that no animals or ants try and get into it, since it's very sweet. And then after a couple of hours to about a day or so, you collect the sap and you start boiling it. Generally, you can tap a tree for a pretty long time as you rotate the spouts.
So these are all maple leaves, and they might all look very similar to the naked eye, but they have little characteristics that can identify the specific species of tree that they are. So we have the red maple, right? And what's special about the red maple is that it has these margins here, these long points in between each of the 3 points. And in the margins of a red maple, you're gonna have little serrations, so little pointy parts, right? And that sets it apart from a sugar maple. With the sugar maple, in between the margins, you only have a few points every once in a while, but the majority is smooth, right? So we've got our sugar maple and our red maple. And then we have some other special species. Leah, you want to take it?
So the black maple right here, if you ever want to try out to see what your maple is, on the back side, it's all fuzzy. So when you touch it, it feels nice and soft. And that's when you'll know that you have a black maple.
And then we also have silver maples. And silver maples, you can identify them with a special trick because they look very similar to a sugar maple. But with the silver maple, you can take this middle blade here, and when you bend it right at the bottom where it meets the other 3 points, when you fold it in half like paper, the point on this will go all the way down past the bottom of the leaf, right? So it's gonna bend all the way over. Meanwhile, with the sugar maple, if you bend it here where it meets at the 3 points, it's only gonna go to the bottom of the leaf, right? So not past, only just touching the bottom. And that's a special way that you can identify silver maple. Another maple that we have is the Norway maple. And that one's special because it looks a lot like a sugar maple, but it's gonna have really huge leaves, huge bark. Everything about it is almost like oversized.
Every single maple that you see here, you can produce sap with, but it is highly recommended that you use the sugar maple because it tastes the sweetest.
And that's all we got for you today.
So my name is Kendall Travis. I am a naturalist, a part-time naturalist here at Fenner Nature Center, and I'm also a support staff over at the Fenner Nature Preschool. And right now I'm out today at the Maple Syrup Fest talking about different ways that we used to make maple syrup or maple sugar. So this was back with the Native Americans. Originally, they would use little birch baskets like this, and they would fill them with their sap, and they would dump the sap down into these logs like this. The sap that they were collecting from the trees is mostly water. It's like 2% sugar. And they would dump it down into these logs and leave it overnight. And the sugar would settle down into the bottom of the logs, and the water would come up on the top and then freeze. So they were able to really easily remove most of the water from it, actually without even using heat. which I think is pretty smart. And from there, they would take river stones, such as this one, heat them up really, really hot, put them down in there, and eventually, over time, the leftover sugar that's down in there would heat up enough that it would form maple sugar, which is really more what the Native Americans were going for. The maple sugar was a lot easier to travel with, a lot easier to store, just lasted longer in general. I like to think it's not as sticky. So they really preferred that maple sugar, which requires actually heating it up past the point of making maple syrup. So they really were putting in lots of work. Obviously, eventually, we had people coming over to the Americas, and they brought with them pots like this. So this is our big kettle that we have here, and this made it a lot easier. This log here was a numerous day process. A lot of people had to work on it. This kettle made it a lot easier. Obviously, they could just dump the stuff in, call it a day. It does take about 40 gallons of sap collected from the trees to actually make 1 gallon of maple syrup. So this still is a longer process. It takes about a day to get through this full kettle, but still, if you want a lot, you have to keep it up. You have to keep going. Still, a numerous day process to build it up and get a lot made. And it's a very short period when you actually can collect sap. You want it to be cold at nighttime still, and then you want it to really be heating up to like the 40s, above freezing during the day, so that the sap starts moving up through the trees, uses capillary action, pulls it up, comes out the end. So it's a very short period. Once it gets too warm at night, or if it's too cold during the day, it really won't work. There is a saying, it's like once the spring peepers start happening, once you start hearing the little frogs, the sap is done and you can't collect anymore. So the long pan evaporator actually came around during Civil War era. And basically, it kind of is what it sounds like. It's a long pan, and it evaporates. There's a lot more surface area there on that pan. So the water from the sap is able to evaporate off a lot quicker. That one takes about a half a day to fully get through, so you can really kind of crank some maple syrup out with that. Yeah, obviously we now have better ways of making it. Technology has come in, has really changed some things, so we've evolved from the log or the long pan evaporator, but 3 original ways, and some people still swear by, the old school ways of making it, so some people say it tastes better that way.
We're here helping with the Maple Fest, and this is the yoke lift. So a yoke is used to help carry heavy buckets of sap to where we process it to make syrup. A bucket of sap can weigh around 8 pounds. So if you're carrying a couple hundred trips, it's gonna hurt your arms. So the yoke is designed around your head, and then you carry a bucket on each side. And this way you're using your back muscles and your leg muscles rather than just your arms. This size is for a kid, so this is really a kid activity here. An adult one would be longer, but you can see we got 1 pound buckets here that kids are able to try and walk around and balance their sap.
Okay, so the next one we're gonna try is sycamore syrup. Wait, we're gonna try sycamore. We got so many to try, so many. Sycamore is one of the biggest, broadest trees in the Lansing neighborhood. It is like whitish with really thin bark, and it has big splotches of like green and brown on it. Its bark grows just really flaky. A way that I like to remember sycamores is that tree sick? I wish it had more bark. So this is sycamore syrup.
Ooh, tangy. Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
No.
Yeah, so this is the sycamore tree.
It's like a tangy maple syrup.
Yeah, like maple syrup, but like with a little zhuzh.
Yeah. So again, these all taste different because these trees need different sugars and minerals to be healthy. The next one we're gonna try is black walnut. Black walnut is one of the tallest, straightest trees in the Lansing neighborhood. It has really dark black bark, and it makes green nuts that kind of look like tennis balls. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. Okay. So when the black walnuts fall down, if you pick them up with your hands, they turn your hands black. They make a beautiful dark brown dye. You can also eat the nuts. So how you eat the nuts is you wait for them to turn black and disgusting and full of worms. And then you're like, ew, this is gross. But then you put them on your driveway and you scrape them around with your foot to get that gooey outer husk off. And you might think to yourself, why would I want to eat something that's this close to a worm? But the worms, they can't get in the really hard shell. So the nut is still fine. So then you take that nut that looks very gross and you smash it with a rock or a hammer. And then you pick out these little nut pieces, which are the most delicious, fatty, rich walnut morsel you've ever had in your entire life. It's like a walnut, but a walnut is like a dry, shriveled version of a black walnut. They're so delicious, and sometimes your neighbors will even pay you to pick them up off your lawn.
Fenner Conservancy has been around in multiple forms for years, but really our core mission is to connect people with nature in the heart of Lansing through stewardship, conservation, and education. So a lot of people know us for our nature center, and we've got wonderful habitats here with many ecosystems. We also have a preschool, which is less well known, but that's one of the wonderful programs that we offer. It's a nature-based preschool. And really for Fenner, one of our main things here is really creating opportunities for people to learn about the natural world. So with today's Maple Syrup Festival, a lot of that is around not just the physical science around maple sugaring and maple syrup, but also around some of the cultural history here in Michigan. This has been a fantastic 49th annual Maple Syrup Festival for Fenner. It was a beautiful snowy day. Looking forward to seeing everyone again next year for our 50th anniversary festival right here at Fenner.
Today. Think about one fact that's in your brain. What was your fact?
Pecan comes from vegan, which is the Anishinaabe word for nuts.
Yeah! What was your fact?
Oh.
It's a good fact! Lots of people can learn the same thing. What was your fact, Purple Coat?
Syrups can come from lots of trees.
Beautiful.